New details on Michael Cohen's decision to break his silence on the investigation into his work as a fixer for Donald Trump. Emily Jane Fox writes for Vanity Fair. For months, every article written about Michael was calling him a thug, a moron, someone who was all mobbed up. One friend of Cohen said now he has all these people telling him that he could change the course of the midterms or 2020. The report adds Cohen is still adjusting to his place in this new world, often musing about how best to protect his family and potentially to rehabilitate his image by repositioning himself in the vortex between Trump and prosecutors. And Cohen's allies pushing back on speculation that his comments came with an ulterior motive. What he did not intend to do was send a signal to anyone, the president or otherwise, that he was seeking a pardon. He was trying to get ahead of things and started feeling like he may not be thought of as the villain anymore. Joining Jason and Jonathan at the table, Vanity Fair senior editor Emily Jane Fox. She's been in close contact with Michael Cohen throughout, and Paul Butler, former federal prosecutor, now Georgetown Law Professor. In Washington, Bill Kristol also joins us, editor-at-large for the Weekly Standard. Emily, take us through your reporting. And let me ask you a dumb question. Is he now in the clear? Does he now not believe there's any scenario where he goes to jail?
No, I don't think that there's anyone who would give him the advice that you could not be indicted, you could not be charged. I don't think that that is where his head is right now. But there is a window that he feels like opened up at this point in time, wherein he's switching lawyers at the end of this week. He's getting rid of a lawyer who was very anti him doing this kind of interview and speaking on the record. He also feels as though he believes there is a time in the near future that someone close to the president or people close to the president and people on his orbit will be coming after him and attacking his credibility and further distancing themselves from Michael Cohen. And so he thought, this is a time where I can get ahead of things. And he also, as you read from my story, has been told by a lot of people around him, this is your chance to change the narrative from you being this mobbed up bad guy to someone who could potentially bring this whole thing down if you're willing and able.
But that's all on the PR side. I mean, what are his legal pathways? I mean, he seems to be at a fork in the road where he either cooperates with the Southern District of New York, turns evidence on anyone else they're interested in investigating, or he goes to jail.
Sure. And so
is that accurate?
Yes. So the choice is, it's a very
he's either going to
choice.
flip on the president and everyone else he had files and recordings of, which was a known unknown, sure, right? Or he's going to jail.
Sure, but there's also the possibility that prosecutors may not need him to flip.
Right. So he may go to jail and do the PR.
Exactly.
That's
so
number three.
There's a third option there, and so for him, there are two options if the government is willing to cooperate with him. I think that the on-the-record statements, which are consistent with what I've been hearing off the record for months and months and months, it seems like he's leaning in one direction.
Flipping on the president.
Well, did you take anything away differently from that interview?
I did not, and it was actually underscored by Fox News flipping on him. Fox News going very negative on Cohen yesterday. I want to ask you some of the same questions, but I want you also to pull the thread on what I thought. I heard you say this on Rachel Maddow. Two of the most interesting things that you picked up from that interview were on the advice of counsel. Michael Cohen refused to discuss any further the Trump Tower meeting where Don Jr. was. And there was one other, the payment, whether the president himself directed him to make that payment to Stormy Daniels or promised to reimburse him. We learned of a system that had been operationalized from Rudy Giuliani, who said on Fox News that the money was funneled from the president through Cohen to women and other people that had to be paid out. But on the advice of counsel, Cohen didn't want to go that far last night.
So it's part of his marketing strategy, probably to Mueller. I've got some really good information. What you got for me? What you going to do? Because remember, Cohen, he is the fixer. He's the payer of hush money, but he's also the intermediary between Trump and the Russian oligarch. And so he's got information on the obstruction part of the investigation and also on the part of the collusion. The other really weird thing about Cohen is he's got all of this money coming in, right? But he's not acting like a rich dude. And again, he's making money off President Trump's name. So a big question Mueller is asking is, does Trump seem like the kind of dude who will let somebody make a whole lot of money off of his name and not want a slice of that? Probably not.
That's a good point. Bill Kristol on the Washington Post reports that no moment in the investigation infuriated Trump more than the raid on Cohen's home, office, and hotel room, according to several White House officials. And I remember being on the air that day, right around the time that news broke of this raid, and the president, I think he was heading into a meeting with his national security team to talk about North Korea, called it an attack on the country. The raid on Michael Cohen's home and offices was described by the American president as an attack on the country. Having worked for the person who was the president during a real attack on the country, 9/11, I found that chilling, that this president sees no separation between his personal lawyer and fixer and the country he now leads. But talk about the significance of Michael Cohen and him sort of reaching this fork in the road legally and with the prosecutors in the Southern District of New York, what that might mean for the president.
Well, it sure looks like Michael Cohen's going to make a proffer to the prosecutors, and I assume they'll want to accept that because his actual testimony is worth a lot more than even a whole bunch of documents and other things. And I think I was very struck by his refusal, his conspicuous refusal to answer on the advice of counsel the Trump Tower question, which does suggest that maybe there's something problematic or questionable about President Trump's denial that he knew about that meeting either ahead of time or immediately after, both of which he, of course, has denied in a statement from Air Force One. So Michael Cohen opens a lot of doors. For me, the most striking thing is, I think I was on with you maybe the day he got, the FBI went into his office, into his home, or the day after. The vehemence of President Trump's reaction then, and what about now? What about this week? Not a word from the president, and not a word from Rudy Giuliani that I've heard, not a word from the president's official defenders. I think they're very worried. They know they're now are being intelligent in the sense that they're being very cautious about saying anything. But I think the silence, speaks volumes. As you said, he's tweeting about the NSA, he's tweeting about Harley-Davidson. He's sort of flailing around, but he's not tweeting at all about the investigation or about Michael Cohen.
Paul Butler, Bill Kristol makes a great point. He's tweeting about Sean Spicer's book and this and that, but not a word. As Emily's story comes up, and we know he's seen the coverage, we know he never stops watching TV.
Yeah, so Giuliani is running scared. And again, Cohen, he's pushing back even on the raid. So he told George Stephanopoulos, actually, the FBI was pretty nice when they raided my apartment. He said, it's not a witch hunt. I don't think it. I think, he says, for me, this is about family and country. And he seemed to put that in opposition to Trump.
Do you get the sense that, you said something a couple of minutes ago that he may not be of value to prosecutors? Is that a real worry that he has? I mean, is he really trying to market himself as someone who has information that could be helpful to the collusion case that would put him back in Bob Mueller's world, who has obvious things on the hush money payments, which would be campaign finance violations? Is he really trying to make clear that he's got the goods on Donald Trump?
There are two separate things. I don't think that that's a worry of his. That's just something that I've been thinking about. If Robert Mueller decides he can't indict a sitting president, then why does he need Michael Cohen to flip? So that is one side of things. But I don't think that there's any way that you can listen to what he said on the record and not make the argument that he was trying to say that he knows things of value to both SDNY and to the Mueller investigation.
And that they're available for the right arrangement, the right deal.
It seems like that was the point that he was trying to make. But my own thought over the past couple of days is if they're not going to indict the president, then what value does Michael Cohen really have?
Because even if he's not going to indict the president, Mueller may want to name the president as an unindicted co-conspirator. Sure. He may want to report to Rosenstein and through Rosenstein presumably to Congress about the president's activities either in 2016 or in 2017 and 18 when he seems to have continued communicating with Cohen in a non-privileged way. So I think you can't, I've thought this from the beginning about Cohen, and I think it's being borne out, honestly. You cannot underestimate you cannot overestimate, am I saying this right? The importance of Michael Cohen. I mean, Cohen, no one would know more, really almost no one. I can't think of anyone with whom Trump might have been less guarded, who might have more access to what Trump did and said, and might there be able to confirm all kinds of things that otherwise would be questionable, sort of if they only had a little bit of a paper trail or one person saying it. I think Cohen becomes, he's John Dean. I think he's awfully important in this case.
And because this is not, this is seedier than John Dean territory, he literally knows where the bodies would be buried.
Yeah, again, he's worked with President Trump for a long time. The New York real estate, taxi medallions, all that, it's down and dirty business. And so, again, Trump is very anxious to resist the threat, thwart the threat. But Trump has very few options as well. He can pardon, but even if he pardons Cohen prospectively, yeah, he could be forced to testify because then he doesn't have a Fifth Amendment privilege.
Real quick.
Oh, and we were talking about this in the green room, and Cohen can find himself in a situation where he then goes and then tries to refuse to testify, is held in contempt, and then still gets to go to jail. So he's in a very clear vice.
All right. Emily Jane Fox, congrats on the reporting, and thanks for sharing some of it with us. When we come back...